When was the last time you ever used drugs?
May 20th, 2011. And I can easily recall that night because it was one of the worst nights of my life. It was the day before my birthday. So my birthday is May 21st. And we were actually planning on changing our lives, getting some structure back to our lives. I had been on a drug run. I had been up for many months. And we got into an altercation with a security guard in Inglewood, and it wound up this guy taking shots at us, shot my girlfriend in the back. I got arrested, charged with all kinds of crimes that I was looking at basically the rest of my life in prison for. But, I say it was one of the worst nights, but one of the best nights because that was the last time I used. And everything that my life has become today started at that moment.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cameron, the founder of NAS Recovery Solution. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, it was a beautiful day. Nice drive up to Boulder.
Yeah. Boulder is beautiful, and Denver too, and like Colorado, it's amazing.
Yeah.
So we start with really strong question, and I will start in the beginning. We'll ask you who you are, what you're doing. Give us a brief overview.
Okay.
That the audience will get more connected to you.
Okay, good. So I'm 56 years old. I've been in Colorado since 1986. I grew up in Southern California. I came out here when I was 15. And, my mom, I grew up with some trauma out there, experienced some childhood trauma. My mom had an addiction problem and some mental health issues. And when our lives fell apart out there, my biological father found me. I hadn't met him before, and he pulled me out to Colorado. So I moved out here in 86 and basically tried to start my life over and, suppressed a lot of that stuff. And I went back to high school. I didn't graduate. I got my GED. Everything was going pretty good. In 1991, I joined the military. Or 1990, I joined the military and went and fought in the Desert Shield, Desert Storm. Came back from there, and that childhood trauma started to manifest in my life again, right? I had been suppressing it for so long. And I began to spiral. My marriage failed. I became estranged from my children. I spiraled my way into the criminal justice system. And for about 20 years, I struggled with addiction and then criminal behavior. Went to some really dark places in my life. And then, like we were talking earlier, in 2011, all of that culminated in some very serious charges, and for which, it was enough for me to pull my head out of my butt and start to rebuild my character, which is what I did. I wound up with a 30-year crime of violence sentence. So technically, I have like 5 more years to do before I could see the parole board. But I'm out here talking to you right now because when you really change in here, everything out here changes too, right? The world is a reflection. And so I focused on just working on my character, rebuilding who I was, finding my why. Like we mentioned earlier, I wanted to find what my purpose was. And so there was a huge path to that through this last sentence. And it brought me into what I do today.
Wow. So I got so many questions, but I will start with the basic question. What NAS, what is the meaning and what they're doing right now? What you're doing there? And then I will dive into all the 1,000 questions that you got me only from the 2 sentences to say.
So NAS stands for a nap and a sandwich. And this actually comes way back from when I was in my addicted behavior. A good friend of mine, I tried to run with this girl and she was like, boy, you better go get a nap and a sandwich before you try to run with me. And she was right. At that point, I was all strung out and dirt broke. And so that's what the justice system gave me, right? When I got arrested, they gave me a bologna sandwich and they sat me down in a cell and told me, hey, go take a nap, bro. And that's what I did. So it's kind of a little pun. We primarily focus, so we're an outpatient treatment program, ASAM level 1 outpatient treatment program that predominantly focuses on the justice involved, right? People either going into or out of the criminal justice system and who are trying to, find long-term recovery, right? It's not just about sobriety. It's about re-engaging into the community and finding your place and rebuilding your life and all these things. And so that was really what led me to that.
Wow, that's amazing. So I will ask you that. You talk about your military experience. That's something that we have in common. I've been in the IDF. It's a little bit different, but we have the same, like when I went to war, you have the same big why. You're doing that for your family, to the people that you love.
Correct.
But there is something that people doesn't understand. When I was in the military, I served in special forces. You was in the top of the mountain. And then one day you finish your service, you're coming back home, and you are nothing. You're just another person, even without any education most of the time. And people look about you like, okay, you're just another person in the world. And they don't know what you've been experienced. They don't know what you did in your life. How was that transmission for you from to be, in the military and everything, then to come to USA back from the military without any education, or maybe you studied in college in that time, but without any education as much as most of the people doing. And now you can give the advice, like how to avoid for what you achieve in that moment and not.
Yeah. Well, I would never disrespect any of my fellow veterans at all by claiming that I had suffered some kind of a battlefield trauma or anything like that. It wasn't like that for me. I worked on the flight deck of a carrier, amphibious ready group 3. So I worked with some frontline people and helped evac some people and stuff like that. But I wasn't out on the front line myself. But that experience, it began to unsettle some of the trauma from my childhood. And as I tried to reintegrate, I started drinking more because we were in the military, right? We came back from the service, all the service guys, we started drinking. And then I started to suppress some stuff with drugs, even while I was still in the military. And so my spiral downward started when I failed to reintegrate, when I failed to come back. And you're right, I had those feelings of being separated from everybody else, right? Nobody really understood what was going on inside me. As a matter of fact, the truth is I didn't know at that point understand what was going on inside me. I was 23 years old. I was struggling in a marriage and trying to be a father, and all these things were going on inside me. And so, it spiraled apart, and I tried to cope the best way I could.
Now I'll ask you about that. Everyone today have a trauma. Everyone have a trauma.
Truth.
And I getting our time that everyone call themselves PTSD. Because people hiding behind that trauma and not fighting with that trauma. That's what I'm saying. Like to using the drugs, to smoke weed, all that stuff to avoid all the pills that doctors give us is to kind of stay behind the trauma and say, I have PTSD and I'm staying behind that.
That's correct.
And that's killing your life.
It is.
And we can see Elon Musk that he have a childhood trauma too. He got surgery in the face because people hit him when he was a child.
Right.
But he took that and make something incredible. He built businesses that right now influence the world. So what is your point of view about people that hiding behind trauma and people that winning the trauma and
sure
leading the trauma?
So you're spot on, right? My therapist, the person who got me through some really good stuff, hard stuff, he told me this. He said, Cameron, drugs work until they don't. What I mean is that I used those chemicals to suppress until basically I was ready to deal with it. And the sooner you can get to that place, the better. You are hiding behind it, right? You're staying a victim. And I remember this. I remember that in early parts, people were saying that I was manipulating, right? Because I knew the work that I needed to do in order to heal, but I would like try to join a program or try to get into a program or start to work with a therapist, and then things would fall apart. And here's what I've realized about myself and now working with my clients is that people go into those programs or they start that healing with the best intentions. They are looking for solutions, but what happens is they run out of gas. My truth is that, over that 20 years that I was in active addiction and criminal behavior, I was emotionally, spiritually, and physically bankrupt. I bankrupted myself. I literally didn't have enough energy in the tank in order to do the hard work necessary, or actually, and the real work necessary is to be able to accept responsibility for your healing. The truth is that we're not responsible for our trauma, especially our childhood trauma. A lot of people have trauma, right? You're not responsible. I wasn't responsible for how my mom treated me, but I am responsible for my healing. And that's something that we have to come to a point in our lives where we realize it's not about the perpetrator. It's not about the trauma anymore. It's about our willingness to engage and find a place of healing and wholeness. And when we do, that's when great things happen, right? Like Elon Musk, right? The Japanese, they have that tradition of the repairing the golden bowls, the bowls, you know about that, where if the bowl breaks, I really think that's correct in addiction. As long as I stay in my trauma, I just give trauma to other people. I just traumatize other people. The moment I get into my healing, the moment I engage and accept my healing, then I just bring healing to other people. So I think, a lot of us will have that question. Those of us who have a spiritual connection will ask, like, why did God have this happen in my life? And for me, that kind of represents that because he needed Cameron to be the healed Cameron that he is today, right? He broke the branch early on so that when I grew, I became the man I am today. Because the truth is, if I hadn't got arrested that night, I wouldn't be the man I am today. If I hadn't gone through all of what has happened in my life, I wouldn't be here today helping others. And I love who I am today. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I'll ask you, I have two questions that connect to each other. What I will start with, the moment you spoke about you got arrested, you went to jail for how long?
This last sentence was I was in for almost a decade, about 8.5 years.
8.5 years.
Yeah.
And before that, you say that your girlfriend got shot.
Yeah, that night.
Time. And she died or something?
No. It was luckily it was just a flesh wound. Like he fired 3 shots, only one. And do you know how a car seat is built? Right? How they have those little square pieces of metal where the framework welds together.
Okay. Yeah.
The bullet struck one of those. One of the bullets, the one that hit her, just grazed her hip, but the one that was in the center of her chest, or almost at the center of her chest level, hit one of those little squares that was about 1 inch wide. So, she wound up with some community corrections time. She had never been in trouble before. It was me. You know what I mean? She got wrapped up with me, and I took her down the wrong path, and that's the truth.
So you say you've been 8.5 years in jail. Now I have more questions, but I will ask you, I will ask you a question that Dr. Baruch Halevi is one of our clients. He always asks his patient, why you have not killed yourself after everything that you have been through? Why you decide to keep fighting and not say, fuck it and just get suicide?
Well, that's a heavy question. And the truth is that my mom had committed suicide. So there was something right there for me that I knew I didn't want to go down that path. That was another trigger for me. I think that people deal with that kind of with trauma in 2 different ways: depression or aggression. My brother, who had to go through that exposure to my mom's suicide, he's more of a depressor. He internalizes his anger and his feelings, right? Where I externalize them. I project them on everybody else. And both of those strategies are coping mechanisms. So, of course, I was at first, my sentence wasn't just 8 years. It was 30 years. Okay. And it was what's called a crime of violence statutes, which means that I would have to do 20 before I could even see the parole board. So I thought I was going to, at that point I was 43. I thought I was going to die in prison. So I did start to despair. And here's the little secret. So what I did is I took a piece of paper and I wrote these words on them. Things always work out for me. And I stuck it next to my cell door with a little piece of shampoo bottle tape, a little piece of tape I took off a shampoo bottle. And I committed myself to say those words every time I went through the door. And I didn't believe it at first, right? But I kept saying it. And the cognitive loop works like this. Thoughts create feelings, which generates behaviors, which gets results, right? So up until that point, my thoughts had been that I'm going to die in prison and my life is over and nobody loves me and all these other things, which generated the feeling of despair. But as I started to plug in this new thought with intention and accept it because of consistency, right? I consistently put it into who I was and created new neural pathways, right? We knew about not neuro-linguistic programming, neuroplasticity, right? I created a feeling inside me called faith. And faith is what led me then to start working towards becoming a new man, learning the laws about my case, because there was some stuff they did wrong in my case. And that's what allowed me to get back into court. But the truth is, those words, things always work out for me, are what got me out of prison, got me through those tough times.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what is the most powerful lessons, the 3 powerful lessons you learned by time to be 8.5 years in jail?
That reality is a reflection of our internal state. So I had been to prison 4 times before that.
Oh, wow.
Okay? Yeah. So yeah, from my first time to prison was 1996. Okay. And I was in this cycle of addiction, arrest, incarceration, periods of sobriety, and then relapse, and then reoffend. And I did this 3 times. Okay. This cycle. And the truth is because I hadn't dealt with my trauma. I still had this internal thing that was dealing with my trauma. And so recognizing that, the way I did those first 4 times in prison was I was just waiting to get out, right? I thought my life is, I just have to sit here and wait and then I can go out and live again. But that's not how it is, man. Every day is another day of your life. And so what I did this time was I flipped it from how do I get out of prison to how do I stay out of prison? That was a little change, the mindset change, okay? It's not about getting out anymore. It's about never having to come back to a place like this again. And, with that 30-year sentence, I accepted that I might die in prison. But I was the guy who was going to decide who they put into the ground if I did, right? Was I going to be that same slug that had gotten arrested, that thief, that junkie, or was I going to be a different man? And that's what I started to focus on, was who could I become? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. So why you didn't before the last time? Like why the first time, the second time, the third?
Sure.
Only on the 4th time you decide I want to make it.
Well, there were some so are you a spiritual person?
We can say that.
Yeah. Okay, good. So, I believe everything happens for a reason, right? I've seen it work in my life. And so as I began to mature, and what I mean by mature is take more responsibility for my consequences, my environment, my circumstances, everything. I started to practice absolute accountability. As I started to do that, I started to witness how the universe started working with me, right? Started working with me. Like, I'll give you an example. The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People was a program that completely revitalized my life. And I had started working on it while I was still in county jail. Read the book, started doing the exercises, created a mission statement, like all about what my time in prison was going to be, mapped it out, all of these things. Created an emotional connection to it, right? My why. And then the universe, they put me in one prison, and then a couple of years later, they moved me to a prison that had a 7 Habits program. And now, I don't only read the book, I get to have people teach it to me, and then I get to help others with the class. And it evolved inside me. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think the big swinging point was I had started to work on my character. And then I made some headway. I'm working with, I'm feeling good about who I was, rebuilt my character. And then I found a lump in my neck. I don't know if you can see that scar right there. Yeah,
I see that.
I found a lump in my neck and was diagnosed with metastatic squamous cell carcinoma. Took them about 15 months to send me to a doctor because that's how prison works. It takes them a while. And, basically when I saw the doctor, she's like, hey, I know what this is. It's got about a 5-year survival rate. I think you've had it for 2 years. And so at that point, I had 14 years to the parole board, and I thought I had 3 years to live. And so this was another huge paradigm shift, right? Because now I am going to die in here. And so I made a commitment to myself that I wasn't going to waste any more of my time. Every second counts. I mean, what am I going to do? Am I going to go watch another episode of Family Guy, right? Is that what I'm going to do with my 3 years left? No. And I decided to give everything I had away. And I don't mean like my TV set or my sweats. I mean, everything I had in here. And I started working with my brothers in the pod, listening for the first time with the intent to understand instead of respond. You know, I started making connections. I started helping others. And to be honest with you, brother, I believe I found my purpose. I think the universe, God, source, energy, whatever you want to call it, set all of these things up in my life to bring me to a place where I said, okay, I'll do what you want me to do. Right.
Wow.
And so not only did I beat the cancer, right? So I did surgery, I did chemotherapy, I did radiation, but I also got back into court and they took 20 years off me, right? I did my cancer treatment in 2018. And that same year I went back into court and I walked into the courtroom 12 years to the parole board and I walked out 2 years past my parole eligibility date. I was paroled the next year.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, one of my childish day, I asked my mom why people getting cancer. And my mom, she is a really spiritual person as well. And she told me, God sent a message. And if you don't get the message, there is two options. Or you died, or you reborn. And then I was thinking to myself, that's crazy. And then I asked her, but when you getting another cancer? So she told me, so you understand the first lesson, but the only question if you understand the other lessons. And you have two options. You have option to learn it by yourself or to get another message from God.
That's it. Yeah.
And then I asked her, but what about the third time? She told me, it's the same in life.
It is.
Always from high school, you're going to military, to college, you're building your
All of
business. You need to grow. You need to learn stuff by yourself. And if you don't learn that, something gonna teach you that.
Yes.
If it's jail, if it's cancer, if it's everything.
Whatever, we learn from each other, right?
Yeah.
My truth is God speaks to me through other people, right? So I need to pay attention, right? I believe that we are all in a complete interface with source, God, at all times. And so all the different things that happen in your life, that is a result of this dialogue that's going on with you. And you're right. If you don't learn the easy lessons, he'll make them harder.
Now, so I have a question about how you find a way to go out after 8.5 years. Is just show to other people and tell your story as well, and then give your perspective that everything is possible.
True.
Everything is possible. But what was your path over there? How you did it? How you make that happen? That after 8.5 years, you living not after 30 years.
Sure. So it does come back to that original quote, things always work out for me, right? So, when I got the cancer diagnosis, I had to drive back to the facility. It took about an hour and a half that I was shackled by myself in the back of a van after I just got diagnosed. And by the time I got to the facility, I had already decided, no, I'm not going to die. Things are going to work out for me. And I've committed myself to that kind of faith, right? And then I just decided to whatever's put in front of me, I do it with all of my might. And I let the universe, so I focus on my goal. If you will, I didn't bring them with me today, but I have some of my original mission statements from when I was still in county jail and the revised ones that I did over those 8 years, right? And I talk about the Nap and a Sandwich Foundation. There are guys who work for me right now who remember hearing me talk about it out on the weight pile in prison. And they were like, dude, you got 15 more years to do. You're not going to be doing anything like that. And I would tell them, yeah, watch, I'll be out there doing this right now. And so it's up to me to focus on what I want, right? The direction, the goal, what is speaking through my heart. Remember, this is leadership. I lead from here. Okay. I lead with my connection to source. This is management. So sometimes the times that I get lost, I'm trying to think too much. I just let the universe bring to me what the next step is, and I do it with the best of my mind. So when I got out, I started washing dishes. That was the first job I could get. Washed dishes for 6 months. And I did it the best I could, man. That was the cleanest kitchen in Arvada, I promise you. Okay. Like I just put everything I could into it because I knew what I was doing was creating habits inside of myself. And then, I started working as a peer, for free. Like I wasn't getting paid. I just started working with my brothers who were on parole. And, eventually people heard about that. And, I had a lawyer say, hey, you know, the ORPC has just got $1 million grant to start a parent advocacy program. You should go apply for the job. And I did. And I got the job. So less than a year out of prison, I got a contract from the state of Colorado as the parent advocate. And I was the first and only parent. I piloted that program for 2 years. Like there's like almost 30 parent advocates all over the state. But for the first 2 years, it was just me working in all the different counties, helping people with substance use disorder, trying to get their kids back. So that's what I'm talking about. Like, so I knew what I wanted to create, nap in a sandwich. But the universe, God, gave me this other thing, right? He said, this is what I want you to do right now. And so I said, okay, I'll do that. And I did it with all I could. And those connections that I built over 2 years then gave me not only the knowledge of the industry, the connections in the halfway houses and in the justice system, in the different courtrooms. I got to know everybody. People got to know me. They knew that I was fully committed. And so when I went and started NAS, I already had my foot in the door. And it just built upon itself.
Wow. And now how many people are working under you?
So we've got 20 peers. We've got 4 clinicians. No, 5. We just hired another one. And then I have an admin staff of 6. So yeah. So
in 5 years, it's become really big.
Big. Like, you know, once again, we come back to purpose. I don't market. We don't do any marketing. What we do is we do our job well and we let word of mouth spread. And I think what really blessed us too is that we found a really needed niche. Most treatment centers, even outpatient ones, you have to go to the outpatient treatment center to get your therapy or your treatment. We flipped it. We said, we'll come to you. So we go to the halfway houses. We go into the halfway houses and work with them. And it makes it easy. This was a lesson I learned. I learned this in prison. I was working at the wild horse program, which training wild horses for the prison system. And this old cowboy told me, he said, Cameron, when you want to train a horse, you make the right things easy and the wrong things hard. And I was like, man, why don't they do that in there? Right. So that I took that. That's right. If we want to, for these people to engage in their therapy or their treatment, make it easy for them, not hard. Don't make them ride a bus for an hour and a half. Don't make them jump through all these hoops. Make it easy. Because, you know, the truth is all the different programs work. Doesn't matter if it's 12 steps, DBT, CBT, they only work to the level that the participant is willing to engage. And so I think the big question is, how do we get more people to engage in their treatment?
Wow. So for the end, I have 3 questions that are really deep.
Okay.
And powerful. So be ready. The first question, if there is anyone in your past that didn't forgive you and you want he will forgive you, and if you forgive yourself about everything that you have done.
Yeah. So, okay, I mentioned that I was estranged from my children and for over 15 years. And then I got a hold of them again after I got out and slowly started to rebuild my relationship. And it went very well at first. Both of my daughters actually came to work for me for a while, and they did incredible work for NAS and helped build it up. But, you know, even though I'm in recovery, I still have character defects, right? That's the truth, man. We still have things we work on. And I began to trigger my daughter, you know, because we were doing well when we were states apart and we only talked on the phone and maybe some video chat. And then when we got close, and so that having to accept that that I traumatized her, that's the truth. I was an abusive and neglectful father when I was in addiction. And that she gets to decide when she's ready to heal from that or ready to forgive me from that. And that's okay. I have to accept that. Right. And so at this time, we've kind of like split apart for a while to see how things work. Now, my youngest and I, we talk every week, and she's doing good. And have I forgiven myself?
Mm-hmm.
There are times, well, see, things like that they don't ever go away. Like I get patches where, especially surrounding my mom and my dad, things I should have said, things that I didn't get to say, or, but I do. I forgive you can't carry this baggage into your new life,
Mm-hmm.
because that's what you're doing, right? You're actually building with material from the stuff you're trying to get away from. If you bring that in with you, it's not going to work. But it's a process. It just doesn't happen once. You just don't say, okay, I forgive myself and everything's good. It doesn't work like that. Those feelings will continue to come up. They'll get triggered, right? A trigger is like that. You get put in a situation that brings you back to that moment of that trauma, and you have to go process it all over again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love that. So the next question.
Okay.
What changed in your life when you met your wife?
That's a great question. I'm going to tell you this whole story. So I'm codependent, okay, which means that I would put how I felt about myself on the relationships that I got in. I had a poor attachment strategy from my childhood with my mom, and this led to this style of relationships. And so, but it was one thing I couldn't really work on while I was in prison, right? I'm not in any relationships in prison. So when I got out, it was about probably 4 or 6 months, and I met somebody, and we started to have a relationship. And because at that point I had worked on my character and my boundaries, I was able to recognize when things were that this wasn't healthy anymore. I was like, okay. And for one of the first times in my life, I was able to say, hey, I'm sorry. I think the world of you, but things aren't working out. We're going to, I'll see you down the road, and then not answer the phone again. Right. So I did that. And then about 6-8 months later, I tried again. I met somebody and tried another relationship, and it went left really quick. And I was able to once again hold my boundary, not spiral out, and, practice my own self-care, my own self-love, and be okay to be alone again. And I think that's when the universe said, okay, you've healed. Let me send you the right person. And that's when Linda walked into my life. And she was like this perfect fit for me. I mean, like, she's got it. Not only does she teach me all the time, but she's patient, because I'm still working through stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And she's been great for my business. She has a wealth of knowledge. She ran a $1 million business out in California for almost 20 years. So she knew the business industry, and it was just like a perfect match. And I truly believe that it was because I passed those tests, right? That the universe said, hey, is this the kind of relationship you want? And I was able to say, nope, that's not what I want, not what I want. And he sent me the right lady. And it's been a blessing. It's been amazing. We still work through things. We're humans, but now we have that kind of maturity. We can do that.
When you find the girl that believe in yourself more than you believe in, believe in you more than you believe in yourself.
Yes.
Just marry her.
That's correct. She builds me. Yes, because I still get imposter syndrome, right? I still get scared because man, my life has fallen apart so many times in the past. Like every once in a while, I'm like, okay, this is all going to end, right? I start looking for my outs, right? Okay, this is where I'm going to run. This is what I'm going to do. You know what I mean? And she's like, no, Cameron, this is you. You are at this level now, right? The hard thing for me is I've loved to coach. I love to go in to do workshops and teach, but I've had to stop doing that because I have to learn how to be a CEO now. And so that's what 2025 has primarily been for me, is learning how to be a business owner and communicate with my coaches and my team and build structure and all of those things. And it's been difficult, and she's kept me on pace for that.
So before I go into the last question, I'll ask you, how many people you and your business impact in the last 5 years, let's say?
We have probably close to 1,000. I think we have 400 or 500 active clients right now. Wow. But we grew exponentially in 2025. So, Yeah, at least 1,000.
So what is your estimate to the end of 2030?
Well, by 2030, we want to be in other states. Like I plan on taking this message. The reason we're starting to do podcasts and stuff like this is because I want to share my philosophy. I want to share how this all works together. So I don't think there's a limit, right?
I love that.
Honestly, I'll tell you, I think that the addiction and the healing that will come from those addicted and the healing that comes from those who are incarcerated, when they give that back to society, they will heal what's going on in our community today. Those stressful environments in addiction and in incarceration, they have the knowledge. After going through all of it, they have the knowledge and healing to share and help, kind of heal our community.
Wow. I love that.
Yeah.
So for the last question,
okay,
what is the best advice that you can give for someone that's feeling lost, someone that's fighting with trauma, or someone like the best advice that you can give to your younger version of yourself?
Sure. So, let me take a drink. One of the things I did was I wrote a curriculum based on my experience. And so for me, it was about the inside out approach. So I first had to focus on my internal world. So if they're still living in their trauma, you need to be able to find a place to get therapy for that. Like when I got out of prison, of course, I had to do classes for the parole department. But after I was done and I wasn't mandated to do any more classes, I went and found a therapist voluntarily, and I paid that dude $150 an hour to talk to me twice a month out of my own pocket. And it was worth every penny, right? The secret to that is connection. You have to find somebody you can connect with. So if you're at that stage in your life, I would first try to find people you can connect with, people who have lived experience, have been going through what you've been going through, and you can communicate with them. And then I would find ways to fill your cup. Like I said earlier, one of the things that kept me in that spiral was that I was emotionally, spiritually, and culturally bankrupt, right? I'd spent everything. And so I was walking around depleted, and it's very hard to struggle and heal when you're in that kind of a state. So what I mean by filling your cup is find stuff that gives you emotional energy, right? Or spiritual energy. Reconnect with your source, with your faith, your religion, nature. That's a great place to start, right? Just getting connected, connecting with others, your tribe, meeting your tribe, but also family, your cultural heritage. Find out where your family is from. Connect to your cultural roots. Anything that can start to feed you with more energy and a sense of pride and stuff. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Your story just showing for me and other people that first, appreciate the moment. Because when you speak about 10 years minimum you've been in jail overall, that you have the ability to drive the world there, see the view, get the freedom that everyone dream about. And people don't understand, I am even me, doesn't understand how is to be in a place that you can't do nothing. You can't do whatever you want to do.
Yes.
And that's something that...
Well, the hardest part then is deciding what you want to do. That is the secret. You got to find your purpose, right?
Yeah.
So part of our program is we're going to start working on that. We're going to define the things that we want to do, and before we plant the seeds to grow it. And those are the most difficult questions, but we do that with what we call the emotional guidance system, right? What things excite you to do, right? Because I promise you, like for many years, I was stuck in this limited viewpoint of the world, right? I thought, well, I'm an addict, I'm an ex-con, I'm always going to have to struggle to find employment. I'm never going to be able to make any money. I won't be able to do this. I won't be able to do that. Once I recognized that I'm the one who is creating the limits, right? Mm-hmm. And I start to lay down the groundwork of actually what it is I want. Stop thinking about what your resources tell you can do, and just find things you want to do that you enjoy doing. And I promise you, there's a way for you to make good money at doing it in America. America really is the land of opportunity.
I agree.
You just have to get excited about what you do. And then that energy comes out in what you do. And people want a piece of that, right? They do. If you love what you do, doesn't matter what it is, man. Somebody's going to be like, wow, even if they just want to watch you do it, right? Or maybe it's a service, so they're going to have you do it for them. But your emotional connection to it is going to spread.
I love that.
Yeah.
Man, you talk gold here.
I knew when I looked at your podcast, I was like, oh, this dude talks my language. We're going to be right. This is great. Thank you for finding me or giving me a chance.
Yeah, I love what you're speaking. And for sure, I would love to make your podcast. You need to do something amazing. And as much as you talk, and I see how much like we are 40 minutes and we didn't touch nothing.
I know.
About your story. And that's crazy for me that people need to hear that. Doesn't matter who you are in your life, because every person in the world thinking that they have trauma.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you think you have trauma, you need to first follow you and understand your story and your vision. Second, fight against the trauma. Don't let the trauma lead you. You need to be the leader of your trauma. Don't hide behind something.
Your trauma is going to be your strongest success point. Truth.
Mm-hmm.
It's what has made me who I am today, right? Like I beat addiction, incarceration, cancer, all of these things, right? In order to get here at this moment. So something is leading me down through that, right? There is some purpose behind that. And when we start to be, instead of being fearful of it, we realize it's going to be the source of our success, right? There's that old saying, I think it comes from Marcus Aurelius. It says, the problem is the way, or the way is the problem, right? The truth of anything is any obstacle that you have to face, the answer lies in the obstacle. That is the path through the obstacle, is that don't run from it. Don't try to go around it. Don't try to whatever. You have to process the obstacle's there for a reason,
No, I agree. You talk like a true leader. So that's powerful.
Thank you, brother.
Cameron, I appreciate you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
That was great.